In my prior video, I told you that acceptance is the starting point of recovering from porn addiction. I wanted to make clear to you that porn addiction is sex addiction. You should come to terms with that right away. Now, before we can start our trip down the road of recovery, we should talk about the preparations. You wouldn't take a big vacation without reading up on where you were going and what places you'd be staying. Obviously, you might end up out in the middle of nowhere if you were to do that. And likewise, we want to prepare ourselves for the journey down the road of recovery. Grab a sheet of paper and something to write with. Pause this video if you have to. The first thing I want you to do is write down, "You are not alone." Big bold letters. This is critical because you should not try to tackle this problem by yourself. You cannot trust your self-management process. You need help, and you also need accountability. So, underline, "You are not alone," because this is the working title of this document. Second, I will itemize the names of some organizations that can help you with the recovery process. Your job will be to look up the names of these organizations and locate one that you can go to. Many of these organizations also have virtual meetups. However, I advise you to travel to a meeting. Being around real, breathing people works better in the recovery process. It also helps build trust and fellowship with people who understand what's going on and what you're going through. And trust me, you're going to need this. The following organizations work off the 12-step program and work similarly to Alcoholics Anonymous. Number 1, Sex Addicts Anonymous, otherwise known as SAA. Number 2, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, also known as SLAA. Number 3, Sexual Compulsives Anonymous, otherwise known as SCA. Number 4, Sexual Recovery Anonymous, otherwise known as SRA. And number 5, Sexaholics Anonymous, otherwise known as SA. Next to each line, I want you to write down location and date attended with enough space to fill in the information. Your task will be to immediately locate at least one of these organizations and travel there for a meeting. If you happen to not be heterosexual or not married, I would recommend starting out with SAA or SLAA, as they have a broad footprint and can accommodate people of many backgrounds. Next, I'd like to give you some websites that can actually help you with the recovery process. Consider these to be sort of like novelty items, so if you choose to use them, that's fine. They're not necessarily required for this process, but anything that you can do to go ahead and facilitate more community into your lifestyle while you're going through this, the better off you'll be. So I'll just list two. One is nofap.com, has an excellent community, especially for newcomers. You can go ahead and post on there, who you are, what you're going through, make it basically entirely anonymous, and so you can get lots of feedback and support from the users that are on that forum. Likewise, Reddit's NoFap community is also really good for this. Again, novelty items, it's not something that you should primarily use, but it is excellent for just going ahead and getting feedback and getting community support. Okay, this next one's important. If you are employed and you have health insurance, I want you to go out to your provider's website and search for the word psychotherapist. Find a nearby psychotherapist that's in your network and see if you can locate one with a credentialing of Certified Sex Therapist or CST. It might not be listed on the insurance website itself, so if they have a list of psychotherapists, maybe you go out to each individual psychotherapist website and see if CST is listed there. If you have access to the therapist and your insurance covers it, immediately set an appointment. A qualified therapist can be critical in helping you work through your struggles, which likely go well beyond just sexual dysfunction. Many sex therapists can also assist in repairing relationships if your addiction has caused trouble with your family or your significant other. I'd also like to encourage you to find yoga and meditation classes. This is a critical path to exercising mindfulness, which will help discipline your conscious behaviors. If you can't sit alone for 5 seconds without thinking about sex, getting control of your thoughts will be a long uphill process. Meditation is a very practical tool to help with this. After years of putting bad practices into your brain, you now act impulsively even when you don't want to. Meditation can help put new practices in place. Think of it as kind of like cognitive push-ups. Likewise, yoga teaches mindful behaviors. If you are worried about being triggered by yoga pants, see if you can find instructors who may not match your sexual preferences, but don't give it up. Yoga is a benefit and it can help in this entire process. If you are in a religious community, check with your clergy to see if they have addiction counseling. But be sure to still make an effort to attend the 12-step programs if you can. Don't restrict yourself to just one specific group. Finally, I want to talk to you about digital devices. Many people advocate using blocking software, especially early on. They do this for good reason. You can't be trusted to make good decisions because you're an addict. I'm not going to stop you from installing whatever blocking software you choose. However, I'm not going to be advocating any specific company or technique here. I wanted to share with you that I managed sobriety without using blockers. Using conscious discipline, I managed to stay away. One thing you can do that helps is just setting your Google and Bing search parameters to moderate rather than unfiltered. This will usually stop random porn from just appearing during searches and mitigate the possibility of triggering. It's not like it was 15 or 20 years ago. I mean, the filters that they're providing that are free are actually really good now. If you have any porn-related bookmarks, you should immediately delete them all. Then delete the history on your web browser and search engines on all electronic devices. Finally, I encourage you to seek out some reading material. I recommend Patrick Carnes' Shadow of the Net and Facing the Shadow. Both of these books will help you in providing a good starting point to understanding sex and porn addiction. Well, we've discussed preparing for the journey. If you're following my instructions, you will have the support you need for the next phase of recovery. Take your time, be patient, and keep watching this series. Rome wasn't built in a day, so don't expect that your recovery is going to be either quick or simple.